So the unintentional comedy of Brexit continues on unabated, with this being the new slogan: "Get Brexit done." Like, yeah, it was just that easy. I mean, why didn't no one think of it before? I mean, first of all, you had Theresa May's, great string of these things. Brexit means Brexit, and then Boris Johnson came along with his. Oh, no, he was going to get it done, do or die. And it was all the exact same selling points as Theresa May's deal, in that, if you want to avoid no deal Brexit, vote for my deal. And the thing was that his deal, get it done, do or die. I'd rather be dead in a ditch and all that sort of thing. Right, so this is the core of Brexit, is... There was a treaty signed, decades ago. Well, 2 decades ago? I forget when. All I remember is when I was a kid in Middle England, there were no bins in the railways because some people wanted Northern Ireland independent or some such, and they were willing to blow up things in England to get it done. And they were called the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. And after there was a lot of people got killed, they eventually managed to sort of negotiate a peace for Northern Ireland. In fact, you might be wondering, why on earth is Northern Ireland part of the United Kingdom anyway? Well, it turns out that, this, like all things, it goes back to the Spanish and the French, wanted to invade. And the way that they were likely to do it was they would invade in the friendly Ireland to begin with, and then it's a relatively short hop over to get to England proper. So what England did, of course, is it preemptively invaded Northern Ireland. This is, I forget what it was, 300 years ago or something. And, of course, once you've got your army sat up here, no one, made it much more difficult to invade Ireland. The downside of, so after a few hundred years, these guys basically settle down and have homes, and which is why the people in Northern Ireland care more about being part of the United Kingdom than most people in the United Kingdom do. It's a bit weird like that. Anyway, so they eventually negotiated a peace that everyone was not happy with, but they could live with. And that's the thing that really screws over Brexit at the moment, because what part of that deal is there would be no border here. And of course, if there's no border here and you've got free flow of goods here, then you've got a problem in that you've got 2 different countries here and no border between them. Which, just from the whole point of the take back control of our borders and the such like, you can't just have a completely open border here. So you've got a choice. You either put up a border and you basically get rid of this, this peace treaty, or you don't have a border there. At which point, what's the point of Brexit? Now, Theresa May's deal was basically, we'll have all this done electronically, but until we get that done, there'll be this thing called the backstop, where basically, we'll get it done eventually, but until then, there's this thing where the EU says, until you sort out how you're going to do it, Northern Ireland basically remains part of the European Union. And Boris Johnson's plan is exactly the same, apart from he throws Northern Ireland under the bus and says, actually, no, there's going to be a border down the sea here, which now puts England in this remarkable position where you would actually need customs controls to go within England. Within the United Kingdom. At which point it might be worth reflecting on what all this was about anyway. Beyond the sort of take back control and all that sort of thing. All of this was about the 350 million that Boris Johnson was going to not send to the EU, but was going to spend on the NHS instead. It was on the side of the Brexit battle bus. Well, of course, no, not a lot of people talk about that anymore. But it turns out that 350 million a week is about 1% of the tax revenue of the UK. So of all the money that the UK gets in taxes, about 1% of that actually went to the EU. That's what people were really upset about. Well, the sovereignty. But when you take a look at what the hell sovereignty did they actually lose, it was mostly about trade. And so this thing about get Brexit done, well, what exactly are you going to get done? Well, you've got two choices. You can go for Johnson's deal, which is you vote it through, and then there's the best part of a 2-year negotiated transition period. Yeah, at which point you're already, you're getting almost a decade down the line from the original vote, and you're only just getting out of the transition period, and it's likely to drag on for the trade negotiations for how this is going to go on will go on for probably the best part of a decade, especially if there's some sort of divergence where, the UK is going to have certain rules for stuff that it sends to the EU and not others. Incidentally, what Johnson said the other day is there's going to be no checks at all down the Northern Irish Sea, which basically means that there are no borders between the EU and the UK. Not quite sure how that's going to work out. Anyway, so that's arguably the best case scenario. The crash out scenario, of course, throws a royal wrench into the works, but essentially the process that you've got to go through is exactly the same. That you've now got to negotiate a trading agreement with the European Union, which will drag on for the best part of a decade. And you've also got to renegotiate trade deals with everywhere else in the world. Now, you've got a problem here in that the UK doesn't really have any experience in negotiating these sorts of things. Plus, if you take a look at the how well these are the people you're going to have to trust in to negotiate your new Brexit deal. Your new trade agreements with the rest of the world. The people who did such a wonderful job, and now they're just down to this slogan of get it done. It's not going to be done for a decade. Probably. Yeah, that's maybe the optimistic end of things. Anyway, so the Brexit charade continues. Who knows what's going to happen in the next election? If arguably the best, there was a complete farce with the Brexit Party. Anyway, that's a story for another day. So I hope you enjoyed that little ramble on how well Brexit is going. And if you did, give this video a thumbs up.